Hi there, my name is April Sawtelle and welcome to my channel. Today what we're going to be doing is just making a super easy, scrappy mug rug. Super easy project, very beginner friendly. This is a great way to use up some scraps. Let's start out with what you're going to need today. Just going to need a bag of scraps. You're going to want to color coordinate them and get the colors that you want. This is going to be sitting right beside my desk, and my favorite color is red, so I'm going to definitely be incorporating red into this. I'll be using my iron and mat. I'm going to use a couple of different rulers here. I'm going to use a rotary cutter. If you don't have a rotating mat, just use a mat that's small so you can spin it around. So just take your scraps, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bunch and I'm going to start layering them. I'm going to cut these down to 1.5 inch strips. So I'll just layer these down and I'm going to go ahead and give them a press. This one I know is a 2-inch strip, so I'm just going to put that on there. I'm just bringing them to the edges so all of them will line up on an edge, so when I make the cut, hopefully they'll all be underneath it. I like to just press everything as I go because I just like it nice and flat. I'm going to lay all my fabric here, and I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to start trimming down this right side. You can see I didn't iron all of this because I'm not going to be using all of that. I'm only just going to use some of this. You just want to make sure you're going to clear everything here to your right. You don't want to have any little guys stuck underneath there. Go ahead and hold your ruler and just give that a trim. If you already have 1.5 inch strips, that would be great. So I'm just going to put my fabric on top here. Now just spin your mat. And I'm just lining my ruler up to 1.5 inches because I'm just cutting the 1.5 inch strips. And I'm going to cut a few times here. See how many I can get out of this. I'm just going to cut right over everything. I'll pull these ones out. It's not going to matter how messy this is, whether it fits or doesn't fit. I'll pull the scraps out when I'm done. The rest of it will be lined up. And I'm going to do this one more time. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look to see what's cleared here. So these are all set. These are all set. This one, the edge is going to have to come off here. And I'll just trim that right off. I'll do it now so I don't get that in anywhere where I'm going to be sewing. Okay, these ones look great. Let's look at these ones. This one made it. These ones made it. You can see these two didn't make it. That's okay. Those will go right back into my scrap bin. And this one made it. And I'm going to just cut these edges off. You can see the selvage here on both of these. I'm going to trim that off. I'll trim it before I even start. That way it's sure not to get caught up anywhere. They all made it. Okay, I'll see you at the sewing machine. Just go ahead and take your strips and we're going to put those right sides together. My guide here, and I'm just going to sew right to the end of this first strip. We're going to want 3.5 inches square. So for this project, because I only need 6 little squares, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut that there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add my next piece to the other side. So I'll start right here at the bottom because I'm going to start cutting my strips here. Now I'm just going to sew all these pieces of fabric together. I'll measure mine when I make mine into squares. And again, I'll finger press this. And then what you can do, you could just take this and use this as your next piece. You can just leave them connected. And I'm going to add 3 pieces to this. And I probably don't want the yellow in the middle because I want them to be all different. I don't want them to be all the same, with the same piece on the end or in the middle. So I'll put this on the other side. You'll see. All right. Then I'm going to just finger press that one open. And then I'm just going to turn this. So because like I had this yellow in the middle here, I probably don't want it in the middle here. So I'll probably put the next piece, let this 3.5 inch square be the yellow on the end. So I'll just add some of this red to it over here. So you're going to have all different size pieces. I'm not having mine measured out before I start. I like to just do it as I go. It's going to make it easier for me, and I don't have to really match anything up. It's all going back to my scrap bin anyway. So it's not like I'm filing it in a nice drawer or anything like that. It's all going back to the scraps. You know I want 3.5 inches, so we've got one here, one here. You're just going to continue to do that all the way through all of your pieces, depending on how many you want to make. You're only going to need 6 3.5-inch blocks. Whether you get that with sewing them together, or you get that with solid pieces of fabric, or mixed and matched, or just one solid, complete solid piece of fabric, any way you get there is going to be fine. Okay, let's go over to the iron, and we're going to get these all pressed. This is what they're going to look like. And I'm going to start pressing. I've already finger pressed these, so I'm just going to push that open, really. And I'm just going to do that through the whole pile. So now I have all these pieces that look just like this. I'm just going to take my 3.5-inch ruler now, and I'm going to start making 3.5-inch squares. I'm going to line my lines on a seam here, and I'm going to line up here on the bottom, and I'm just going to start trimming these up. I'll put my fabric back on top, and then I'm just going to spin this. I'm just going to trim. Maybe a little smidge right here. I'm going to do that so I get 6 blocks. Each mug rug is going to have 6 blocks in it. And then you can just play around with the layout. So what you're going to do is you're going to put one going up and down, one going sideways. One up and down. This is up and down, so you're going to want to go sideways here. This one will go one up and down, and then this one would go sideways. So you can do this any way you want to. You can play around with this. You could make them all the same colors. Just put them in different angles. See how adorable that is? You could just get rid of like all the red ones and just go with like the orange ones. That's really cute. And then you could put all the reds together. You just want to try not to have them touching too much. That's all. The solids with the solids or whatnot. I think I like both of them right now. Yeah, I think that's my favorite way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the sewing machine. I'll show you the next step. I'm just going to lay this down on my little board here so I don't lose my order. I can lose my order very quickly. And then I'll lay these ones on this one. And that will just keep me right in order so I can sew them together here. I'm going to take my back ends and I'm going to take my bad end. And I'm going to go over to my sewing machine with my little trays with everything in an order here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to sew these two together, then these two together, then these two together. Fold that over like that. And then I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to finger press it. And then I'll lay it right back down on my tray here. And I'm going to do the same to the next one. Just bring it over. Line them up, and I'm just going to sew these two together right here at 1/4 inch. And I'll finger press that open, lay that back on my tray, and do the same to the next one. I'm going to lay that together, Take that to the sewing machine, and you're just going to sew a 1/4 of an inch all the way down. It's really good to take a picture of how you've got them laid out on your board. That way you know how you want your block to come out when you're done. It's very easy to get confused. One wrong turn and it kind of throws it all off. And you're just going to finger press this open. Okay? Lay that down. You're going to do the same to the next one. Just lay it down on top of each other. Keep your finger right where you're going to sew. That way you won't be confused at what angle you're going to sew in by the time you get it off the board and over to the machine. Now you could also put a pin in it and you would know which side to sew on. Then open it up. Finger press that. Really good and open there. Lay that down on the board. And then your next one. You're just going to put your finger right here because you know you're going to sew right here. Okay, now what you're going to do is give that one a finger press. Now we're going to start sewing these all together. We're just going to take this middle one and we're going to bring this over. And now what we need to do is we need to nest these seams. Not going to go over and do any pressing right now. What I am going to do, I'm going to push one seam to the left. See this seam here? I'll push one to the left and one to the right. That way they nest together. You see? They fit right in. You can feel that nesting in there. So that seam will match up. Now for me with seams, it's always easier if I use a pin. Because if I don't pin where I have that, I do sometimes really have a problem with that. So I'm going to put my pin in there. Okay, that's going to keep my centers together there. Line everything back up and start sewing your 1/4 of an inch all the way down. When you come to your pin, oops, I'm going to move my guide here because now my pin's in the way. I'm just going to make sure my two seams are lined up. They are. So I'm going to pull my pin out. Following my presser foot now because I don't have my guide here. Take that off. I'm going to just push that opened. Push out all those seams again. Okay, let's take this last one, lining that up, and I'm going to put a pin right in that seam, and I'm going to push one to the left and one to the right, so that will nest in together. Line everything up. You see, the reason I can't use my guide here is because my pin, when I get to my pin I have to stop back here. So I'll take that off for this. Okay, line everything up and just sew your 1/4 of an inch. Just going to finger press that. Take your 2 pieces of batting and lay those down. Take your backing fabric and lay that so the pretty side is face up. Take your quilt top and lay that face down. Let's do that one more time. We've got our 2 pieces of backing. We're going to lay down our piece of backing face up so the pretty side will be facing upward. We're going to take our quilt top now and we're going to lay that with the pretty side facing down. Take a couple of pins and just pin that all into place. Just so it doesn't shift while you're sewing, that's all. So this is right where I lost all the footage. So what I'm going to show you is I made another one and I'm going to show you how you want the backing and the batting to be a little bit bigger than the quilt top. Okay, I'm going to go around. I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch all the way around. I know this is the friction one. It says friction. The end result, you'll see I didn't use friction. I used the wrong pen. You want to be sure not to get pens mixed up. I'm going to leave a pretty good opening so my hand can fit through. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to sew all the way around. I'll start here, go around, and then I'll stop right here. And I'm going to give a back stitch when I start and a back stitch when I end. Back stitch when I start. Following the quilt top edge, not the back end edge, okay? I'm just going to do this all the way around. Being sure to stop right here on my line and give it a back stitch. I'm just going to go ahead and give this a nice iron, and all I'm doing is just trying to relax those ends, all the corners, all the way around, so when I start cutting this up and turning it around, it will turn a lot easier. I did have this all filmed. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to see my line here. There's my seam. I'm going to trim that to 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to do that all the way around. I'm just going to go around and I'm going to snip all these little corners off, but I'm not going to touch the seam. Be very careful not to snip that. I'm going to just turn this right side in right now, and I'm going to also be holding my chopstick so I can push the corners out. Just pull that all the way through like that, and I'm just going to stick my chopstick in here, and I'm going to push right on these corners, but I'm going to push pretty gently. I don't want to push too hard. I don't want to pop through, and I'm going to do that all the way around. Just pop those corners right out. Bring your chopstick or whatever tool you have and slide those seams out. Give it one more good press. You want to really be sure that the corners are popped. That one is not popped out. See how that one is? And that one is? I'm going to go back in and fix that one. The corner's nice and rounded, that's all. This is the opening. I need to fold that all in and put some pins in there. After you fold all that in, just give that a good press right there to hold that down until you pin it. Now go ahead and start pinning that all together. Okay, that's all nice and sealed. I'm going to take that over to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch all the way around. I'm going to use my presser foot toe as my guide. I'm just going to follow this all the way around, and I'm not going to back stitch till I get back here, and I'm going to take my pins out as I go and continue on. Okay, and now I'm at the point of beginning, and I'm going to give it a back stitch. Okay, I'll break thread right there. I'm just going to snip off any loose threads now. So there, this one is done. If I just want to do some quilting on it, I had showed you how I quilted the other ones and how I had made lines with a non-friction pen by accident when I was supposed to be using a friction pen. So on the end, when you see the one that has the blue lines on it with the diamonds, I used the non-friction pen by accident, and we'll see my lines. On this one, I think I'm just going to do some straight quilting. First of all, I think I'll go on each side of these two lines to start with and then see what I want to do. I'm just going to lower my presser foot and I'm going to come in right at the same seam line I had already made. That's where I'm going to start. And I'm going to follow this line with my presser foot. And when I come to the end, I'm going to stop right at the seam line. And I'll break my thread there. I'm going to do the same to the other side. Come right in on the line and come straight down stitching. I just want to put my needle down right at that seam line. And I want to end right at that seam line. I'm just going to drop my needle right here on the edge in the same holes that I've already made. And I'm going to follow this seam line. Just going to stay to the inside of it. And I'm going to come to that next seam line. And I'll break thread right there. I'm going to do the same to this side. Here's how this one came out. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Remember to keep it simple. Have a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye. Say bye, little Miss Reddy Thready.